Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
I was a little premature there. Apologies. Good evening and welcome. Nice to have your company on this Wednesday evening. It is the 24th of July. Hard to believe, isn't it? I keep saying that, I know, because it's getting harder to believe. Absolutely. Thank you to Howard for this evening's edition of Spain Today. Many thanks, Howard. Love that track that you finished off with. As I usually do, the tracks that you pick, as always, top class. Enjoy your evening, and we look forward to hearing from you tomorrow between 6 and 7. Now, if you were listening last week to the programme, you will have an idea as to who our first guest is. I'm going to be talking to Colm O'Connell and Rory McDade. Together, they make fabulous music, and they call themselves Urezo, R-E-Z-O, or Urezo, R-E-Z-O. It's Spanish for I pray, and we've played music on the programme from them over the last few weeks, so I'm looking forward to that conversation. Colm is based in Dublin and Rory is based in Malaga, so there's a nice Irish-Spanish connection there, so we're looking forward to that. My guests on the programme in this hour, and in the second hour I'm going to be talking to Gráinne Moynihan. Gráinne is very involved with St. Declan's Way, which is a 115 kilometre track or route that basically you can walk between Cashel in County Tipperary and Ardmore in County Waterford, and it basically follows the route that St. Declan took when he went to visit St. Patrick, all the way up in Cashel in County Tipperary. All right, so Gráinne is going to be talking to me, and as it transpires, by sheer coincidence, today is actually St. Declan's Day. So I'm going to be talking to Gráinne about St. Declan's Way on St. Declan's Day. Okay, there you have it. A little bit of music in there as well, and some stories that I have picked up for you over the last week or so. As always, if you'd like to get involved, you're more than welcome to do so. You can do that. Our WhatsApp machine is up and running, and you can send a WhatsApp to +34 645 99 67 95, or you can send an email to studio@tre.radio. Before I go anywhere, can I say thank you to Jim Cooney, who is the proprietor, the owner of Marbella Home Selectors, our sponsors. And if you were listening last Friday, Jim joined me in my studio to have a chat with me on the Friday conversation, because I was sitting in for Alan T. And we had the loveliest time, and then we went off and had the spuds. Hey, we had lunch, and I met his wife Mary as well. Absolutely brilliant. If you missed that conversation, well then you can hear it on our playback system. So just log on to TRE.radio on the interweb and go to listen back facility and go to last Friday and go to 2 p.m. And then you'll have to go to 3 p.m. because for the 2 hours he spoke to me over that period of time, and it was lovely. A gentleman is Jim Cooney, and I look forward very much to the next time that Jim and I meet up for a chat or a game of golf or whatever it is that we do. So there you have it. All right, Jim, thanks again. Much appreciated for you coming in and having a chat with me. On Monday evening, more than 30,000 people packed into the Fair Green in Ennis, which is only a stone's throw from where I am. And why did they do that? To welcome home the Clare senior hurling team following their victory against Cork in the All-Ireland hurling final on Sunday. I can't wait to have George Lee back on a G2 and give him a good old slagging about that. He never thought we could do it. Never did. The Clare team arrived back with the Liam McCarthy Cup at about 9 o'clock after claiming the title for the first time in 11 years. They began their homecoming tour at Wolftones GAA Club in Shannon. The manager of the team is Brian Lohan, and Brian plays his hurling at Wolftones in Shannon, so it was fitting that they stopped there. Continuing their trip then, they stopped just down the road from where I am, literally a stone's throw, in Clarecastle. Flanked by a bagpipe band, they received a hero's welcome from more than 30,000 fans on the Fair Green then in Ennis. Live acts and music entertained the crowds ahead of the team's arrival. Supporting Or support for the hurling team has also poured in from across the county, the country and the world following their historic victory against their Munster rivals. Cathaoirleach of Clare County Council is Alan O'Callaghan. He described the squad as the blood in the veins of the local community, which was brought together by the momentous win. These are real ambassadors for our county, he said. What they have done in Croke Park was phenomenal. Mr. O'Callaghan said that there was only a puck of a ball, very small margins between losing and victory. But he added the team stood up to the mark. Indeed, they did. It was a draw at full time, and then it went to extra time, and Clare prevailed by 1 point. So there you have it. And it was a momentous day, a fabulous day. I didn't go to the celebrations on Monday night because I had pre-arranged that I was going to have a chat with some people in Timahoe in County Laois. A fabulous group of lads that I met there. They have a choir, a very unique choir, and they're doing very unique things as well. And I travelled, it's only about just under 2 hours from here, and I travelled up on Monday afternoon or Monday evening to meet them during their rehearsals, and you will hear the product of that recording on a later programme in about 3 weeks' time or thereabouts. I plan to play it. And while I'm doing that, can I say hello to Yvonne and Dermot in Torrevieja, because Yvonne is the sister of one of the men that I spoke to, and she was actually in contact with her brother as I was there, and apparently is a regular listener, not just to Talk Radio Europe, but to Live on Eire. So hello to Yvonne and Dermot. And again, thank you, your brother. It was Tony, wasn't it? I think it was Tony, your brother, that I spoke with. So you'll hear that interview, those chats, and the sound of the choir, a beautiful sound it is too, in the next couple of weeks. Now, the government today approved plans which will allow women undergoing treatment for cancer for other serious illnesses to postpone their maternity leave by up to 52 weeks. The legislation will ensure that those affected will not be forced to use maternity leave during treatment. Green Party leader Roderick O'Gorman said that he hoped to have the legislation in place in September and has asked that the bill be fast-tracked. According to the Irish Cancer Society, every year around 60 women go through a cancer diagnosis while pregnant or postpartum. Under current legislation, these women are not able to defer their maternity leave when ill, so that all or most or almost all of their maternity leave is spent receiving cancer treatment. So there we go. That's good news, and a lot of campaigning has been done around that in recent years. And Minister for Media Catherine Martin has rejected claims that the government has handed a blank cheque to RTE as part of its multi-annual funding plan. She also confirmed that a potential fixed penalty notice and a potential statutory exemption scheme for people who do not pay the TV licence fee may be considered as part of changes to the system. Speaking at the launch of the plan at government buildings today, Ms Martin confirmed that the plan would include €725 million 3-year fund for RTE. This includes 225 million next year, 240 million in 2026 and 260 million the following year. The funding will come from both the existing TV licence fee and the Exchequer. Questioned about this scenario, Minister Martin said next year's 225 million will include an expected 105 million from the licence fee, 78 million from free TV licenses to groups such as pensioners, and 42 million from the Exchequer. She said under questioning that it is not a blank cheque and that it is not a case of rewarding bad behaviour. Minister Martin rejected suggestions this system does not incentivise people to continue paying their TV licence fee, as any shortfall will be paid by the Exchequer. She said that to address this, she has asked a TV licence task force to examine ways to increase compliance. This group, which has previously examined the issue, will report to Ms Martin within 3 months. She said an improvement in to the database of TV licence fee payers would take place, and she hoped that this would be completed by January. Let's have some music, shall we? And why not? Let's start the music with a song that's called Getting Started. Comes from Lorraine Nash.
I'm not afraid of the dark, just of what it holds, and I'm reaching my hands into the shadows, and I hope that I make it out alive. I never like to go where I haven't been before, but now the unknown is like an open door, and I hope that I make it to the other side. we're just getting started. Oh, setting out on the road with all of our hope. We're just getting started. Oh, and though we're taking it slow, there's life in these bones. There's nothing that we can be certain of, not the ground beneath our feet or the sky up above, 'cause everything has been turning inside out. They say a change is almost as good as the rest, and I'm more wide awake than I've ever been yet, and I finally know what they've been talking about. We're just getting started. Setting out on the road with all of our hope. We're just getting started. Oh, and though we're taking it slow, there's life in these bones. And risen until I looked up. No, I don't have all the answers, but I'm trusting Lady Love. We're just getting started. Whoa, setting out on the all of our hope. We're just getting started. Oh, and though we're taking it slow, there's life in these bones. We're just getting started. Oh, setting out on the road with all of our hope. We're just getting started. Oh, and though we're taking it slow, there's life in these bones.
Nice, isn't it? That comes from Lorraine Nash, brand new from her. It's called Getting Started. Let's do a quick break. Back in just a moment.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
And you're welcome back. Nice to have your company Wednesday evening. Aye, thank you very much indeed. Right, what have I got for you? Planning permission has been approved for a new visitor attraction focusing on space education and exploration in the Midlands. The plans for a national space exploration centre in Monksland in Athlone, County Westmeath, has been approved by Roscommon County Council. Monksland, Athlone. Oh, that's right, of course. You've got the three counties. That's right, of course. Yeah, Athlone is in County Westmeath, but I think that's part of it, isn't there? It obviously must be in Roscommon. It was approved by Roscommon County Council with 8 conditions attached. The applicant, a company which is called Metaversal Limited, is proposing a space-themed educational and recreational facility in an existing warehouse that was formerly used for leisure use. In the planning statement, the applicant outlines the NSEC would feature an immersive and interactive space museum, a virtual reality space mission, and an event area with an adjoining cafe. You have to have the cafe for the cup of tea afterwards. The proposed museum features up to 45 exhibitions communicating how important the planet is and highlighting the positive and negative impact which human activity has on the planet. This is the first step in the process for the developers who are seeking funding through the EU Just Transition Grant Aid Scheme. So we wish them well in that. And that's going to be a nice project, I would imagine. I would say so. That's that. Am I bringing you this now? Let's do this. Eire, which is Irish Rail, has unveiled a special livery DART train to mark the 40th anniversary of the Dublin Rail Service, the DART, featuring some of the momentous events in Dublin and Irish life over the past 4 decades. Curated by the Little Museum of Dublin, the specially commissioned train has been decorated with words and images designed to engage all DART passengers. The Dublin Area Rapid Transit, DART, made its inaugural journey on the 23rd of July 1984 and since then has carried almost 670 million passengers to their destinations. DART trains cover over 2.44 million kilometres annually, more than 3 round trips to the moon. Wow. Serving a total of 31 stations, the DART was extended to Greystones and Malahide in 2000, with new stations opening at Grand Canal Dock in 2001, Clongriffin in 2010, and a 32nd station will open in 2025 at Woodbrook between Shankill and Bray. Minister for Transport Eamon Ryan said that the DART was labelled a Rolls-Royce solution to Dublin's transport problems when first proposed, way above the spec we needed for the city. It's just as well, he said, that Eire and all those involved in developing DART didn't listen to the naysayers back then. Over the past 40 years, the DART has become synonymous with Dublin life. It has inspired poetry by Nobel laureate Seamus Heaney and has been immortalised by Ross O'Carroll Kelly as the Dort. That's right, the Dort. Irish language crime novel, Dunvaroo, Eran Dart, was published in 1989, while a documentary called The Dart, No Ordinary Day, aired on RTE in 2022. Jim Mead, Chief Executive of Eire, argued that Dart is Ireland's greatest public transport success story. The 40th anniversary was also marked by the release of an exclusive short film written by Roddy Doyle, featuring his 2 pints characters braving the South Side on their day out by the Dart. Looking to the future, the DART is set to double its capacity while the size of its network will triple as part of the DART Plus programme. A railway order application was recently lodged for the extension of the DART to Drogheda, while future expansions will also see the DART serving Kildare. We wish them well. Okie dokie, I'm going to take another quick break, and after that I'm going to be talking to Rezo.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Looking for a holiday home in Spain's Costa del Sol? Marbella Home Selectors are leading and trusted property scouts acting for the buyer. From an agreed specification, we will do the legwork in the selection process and shortlist homes for you to view. After you've chosen, we'll work together with our team of professionals to conclude an efficient and stress-free transaction. Contact via our website, marbellahomeselectors.com.
TRE, your voice in Spain.
Live on Eire is brought to you by the leading property scouts on the Costa del Sol, acting for you, the buyer. Find out more at marbellahomeselectors.com.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
As a coffin, then bang, you're dead. A newborn child with a morphine smile. A television with the sound down full. Those actors miming to the gallery girls. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. Drunken soldier hits the taxi man. Can't pay the fare cause he's lost in nowhere. A traffic cop stops the cars at night. 2 people dead and they're still clearing the wreckage. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. review. Why can't it always be so sunny and carefree and stay that way now and for all time? The city sweeper and the fast food girl, clearing streets and plates and hustlers too. I know anemic when it's white hot and close. I often see it when the city thumbs its snows. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful. I wanna live in the beautiful.
Live in the beautiful. That's music from Rezo, or Rezo, R-E-Z-O. Rezo is the Spanish for I pray. And the two that are praying, I'm glad to say, are joining us right now via Zoom. Colm O'Connell is Dublin-based, or Ireland-based definitely, and Rory McDade is Malaga-based. Colm and Rory. Colm, firstly, you're very welcome. How are you?
Thanks very much, Ger. Very well, thank you.
Are you Dublin? Was I correct, or are you somewhere else?
Correct indeed, yes. I am Ireland and Dublin based, yeah.
Good. And Rory, nice to talk to you in Malaga. How are you today?
Yeah, very good. As I would say, a bit hot. But
it's kind of hot, all right. Yeah, hot under the collar, as they say. Okay, yeah. Is there a boss in the band?
I think it's a democracy of two.
Okay.
So which is great actually, because I guess we both have played in bands before where we're in bands of 5 and 6 people. So we find two very easy, you know.
All right. Rory, I'm going to start with you, because with the Malaga connection, it's always nice to create the Irish and Spanish link. Firstly, where in Malaga are you? How long have you been there? What do you do there? And deal with all that. How's that?
I live near Alarin, El Grande and Coín. So it's kind of inland from Malaga city. It's around 25 kilometres inland. So it's kind of like a 10 degree hotter in the summer, 10 degrees cooler in the winter. But no, it's great. I live in the campo in the countryside. So got loads of land, loads of rescue animals, got 15 cats and 4 dogs, all rescues. So it's just myself and my partner here. And yes, I've been here 6 years. And before that, we lived in Turkey. We had a small little business there, and we actually rescued a lot and we brought them over to Spain. Mm-hmm. So that's a whole different story. But anyway, love it here. I have to say, I love it. I could do without July and August. Yeah. But apart from that, I absolutely love the whole lifestyle here is so much, it's more relaxed. There's just a really nice kind of laid back atmosphere. Particularly, I think when you get away from the resorts, it's kind of a more, just a more kind of laid back kind of way of living.
It's more Spanish, isn't it? It's lovely.
Yeah.
Next time you're out walking the dogs, keep an eye for golf balls. I've lost plenty of them up on that lovely golf course. Many a times too, please. Colm, tell us where you are in Dublin, and is music your world?
Music is my world. Yes, I am in Dublin. I've obviously travelled over the years, but Dublin sort of kind of born and raised, and so are back here now. And I have a family with a wife and 4 kids, so kind of. Although they're kind of growing now, so they're getting it a bit easier to manage. But yeah, that's me. I'm based in Dublin, where unfortunately we don't have the nice weather, and at least haven't done for the last while. So we're lamenting the absence of a summer here. But fingers crossed things will improve.
Where did the name Retho come from? I pray.
But you probably take that, Rory.
It was actually the whole thing started during COVID, the first lockdown.
Yes,
and myself and Colin, we just started kind of bouncing ideas off each other musically, virtually, sending stuff to each other and kind of building on it. And after a while, we kind of built up quite a number of songs that we thought, we should do videos for these, or we should do something with these. And the first song we did was actually called Rezo.
Okay.
So we weren't even kind of considering ourselves as a band as such at the time. We just said, well, we'll call this. The song is called Rezo, and it kind of seemed to make sense because the song was about the whole isolation of COVID and not being able to see people, etc., and that we're praying. For better times, I suppose.
Okay.
So then it kind of made sense then when we kind of developed that a bit more, and we said, right, let's think about releasing stuff and saying, what are we going to call ourselves? And I think it was Colin. I think it was you that kind of said, well, how about Rezo? And it seemed to kind of it's 4 letters.
Lovely.
It's nice and snappy, and. So that's kind of where it came from, and it seemed kind of made sense as well, and with the Spanish connection as well. Like the first video, it was all shot around Malaga, around the countryside here, and some in Malaga city centre as well.
Okay,
so it kind of made sense. The name. So.
And actually, we did think with 4 letters. We thought, well, like it's nice and snappy and simple. But actually, it's been a bit of a bugbear since because the pronunciation then has become a challenge. I think a lot of sort of DJs and people are calling. Is it because we call it Rezo as you'd sort of read it. But people then will use the Spanish because it is from this. Obviously, it's from the Spanish. So Rezo or Rezo, so we've had all kinds of combinations and permutations of it. But I guess that's just the challenge of it, I suppose, from the etymology of it or whatever, where it's from,
Right. You guys, what I'll do is I'll direct a question at rather than hand saying, you take that or I'll take that or whatever the case might be. Colm, I'm going to just direct this to you. You obviously, from what Rory has said there, you were bouncing ideas. You've obviously known each other for a while, and have you worked together previously? Or maybe you made reference to that, I think, earlier on, that you were together in a band with 6 or whatever. So tell us the history between the two of you.
Sure. Well, we kind of met as I guess in kind of late teens, I suppose, through a mutual friend, and have been sort of firm friends ever since. So probably friends first and foremost, but that friendship has always been kind of a big part of that has always been music. So we played in a band for many years together, a band called the Mitcheners, and that had various guises and so on. But broadly speaking, we sort of Dublin-based kind of I suppose indie rock band, I suppose, throughout the 90s. And so I guess we've had sort of prior history, kind of making music together, and probably have always had kind of a musical relationship, I suppose, in terms of sharing ideas and stuff like that. Sometimes more sporadic than others. I guess, as Rory mentioned, Rory was overseas for a number of years, and obviously remains overseas. But so I guess we did less. But I think we always kind of made a point of hanging out and kind of keeping that musical kind of relationship kind of going, and so that's probably that I suppose is probably the background or genesis of it, I suppose.
All right. And Rory, if I could ask you just in relation to, I know that the first album was recorded remotely because you were in Malaga and Colm was in Dublin, the lockdown, so on and so forth. Have you produced all of your music remotely, or have you managed to get together and play?
You're right. The first album, Travelogue, it was totally remote. Well, apart from anything else, it was during the whole COVID kind of lockdowns and things. But after that, the second album, So Change, we did some of it remotely, but we did actually then go to the studio in Dublin, Darkland Studio, with Dan Doherty, who did the Fontaines DC's first album. So that was brilliant. It was great to be actually in a room together, with an engineer and producer and stuff. So it was really, you're limited to a certain extent when you're doing it virtually. It has its pros and cons because before, like for example, if I'm going to send something to a colleague, I'm going to make sure it's pretty good, or I do it in time or whatever. So you're kind of more focused on it, and then you send it. I think you'd probably agree with that. But then you do miss the kind of live back and forth into interactions. And so with this album, now it was mostly virtual, but then it kind of I suppose we never actually were in the same room for this. But when it was our producer Marcus Paquan in Canada. So he was mixing the stuff. So there was kind of back and forth with him. So it was a great experience. Sometimes it was slightly challenging because I remember a few occasions saying, God, if only we were sitting beside him at the mixing desk, we could say, that bit there. That's what we're trying to talk to you about. But no, it was a learning experience. And overall, it was great. But to answer your question, for this album, no, it was pretty much virtual, virtually recorded.
Okay. Now the album, when you say this album, it's your third album, and it was released on the 12th of July, called The Age of Self-Help. How has it been going for you?
Brilliant. We've kind of a bit overwhelmed with the response so far.
Great.
We've got a rake of reviews coming in, and they've all been really positive. We got a review there just the other day in Mojo magazine.
Right.
So they gave us 4 stars, and then Americana UK gave us a rave review. Folk Radio, which is now called KLOF UK, they gave it a great review, and also I don't know if you're familiar with Bandcamp, but we were featured on Bandcamp's homepage as a notable new release. So that's pretty
good.
It's good. If you don't get that kind of thing, you're just one of the millions that are there. So it's all it's going great with on RTE Recommends playlist as well. So we're getting quite a few plays in RTE Radio 1. So really, really happy with the response so far.
You mentioned there, Rory, about RTE and the fact that you managed to get some airplay there. It's the old story from so many artists down through the years, trying to get airplay on a national radio station, and particularly now when you've got so many playlists, it can be a nightmare. What do you attribute to the success? Is it just that you're very good, or is it down to marketing, or what?
It's funny, we were talking about that. Like today, it's easier than ever to get music out there.
Yes.
But as a result of so much music out there, it's very hard to get any, to get noticed.
Yes.
And I'm sure with RTE, it's just for us, we just keep knocking on the doors, that sometime something will happen. So we've been kind of, I think there's a lot of luck involved, I think.
There is
also, but I mean, I'm kind of hoping that it's because they like the music. I'm hoping that has a large part to do with it. But I'd imagine the likes of national radio stations, they probably get hundreds of kind of new songs every week, and I'm sure it's a full-time job to kind of listen to everything and decide then what they're going to play, and it's also, I think the bigger record companies have a lot of airplay sewn up. They seem to be.
Yes.
You don't often hear kind of unsigned, like truly independent bands being played on mainstream radio. It's more the kind of, the web stations or the college radio. But for mainstream radio, it's, the record companies are seem to have a pretty sewn up, and that's why you probably hear the same 5 or 6 songs every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Colm, if I can direct this to you, the fact that you're both in different countries, you're making wonderful music, you're getting airplay, you're getting noticed. Are you going to have to tour at some point? Are you going to have to get together and bring this on the road, or have you done so already?
Well, we haven't done anything yet, and certainly that's a possibility for us. I suppose the kind of logistics of that are difficult, as you can imagine, if we're in two separate kind of countries. But certainly, I mean, it's something, playing live is something we've done before and are certainly happy to do again. But I think it's probably just a logistical question of making sure that we can do the songs justice, I suppose. So, and really, in terms of recording it is just the two of us. We have some sort of friends joining and sort of featuring people to join us and play. But ultimately, reproducing it on a stage, we would need to get some cavalry in to sort of help us. So that there'd be a bit of a rehearsal and the logistics of that as well. So I think we have no immediate plans to tour. I suppose it's been probably largely a kind of a recording sort of project, I suppose, to date. But we're certainly open to that possibility, I think, into the future if circumstances allow. And I think that's probably just, I suppose, if there is a forum that will justify it. So if there's a particular festival, for example, or if we decide maybe to do a tour, but I think it would need a bit of a lead in time, I think, and probably a little bit of logistical thought, I think, to make it actually happen, but certainly something that we'd be excited to do if the circumstances were right,
What do, and Colm, I'll stay with you if I can, what do each of you bring to this? Is there a singer? Is there a songwriter? Is there a one that's better at the music side of things? What are the individual traits and attributes that you bring?
It's a good question. I think probably just by virtue of our friendship and our rapport, we have a sort of a kind of an easy rapport, and I think probably quite a common sensibility in terms of what we like, and what we think is good, even though we probably listen to maybe different types of music and different, I guess it wouldn't be, all the same, I suppose. But I think we both seem to respond or recognize kind of greatness in musical terms, I suppose, or melodic terms at the same time. We both, the things that I get excited about, I think Rory will, and vice versa.
Right.
So I think there's definitely a kind of a meeting of minds in terms of what we value, or value in musical output, and then I suppose I think we both contribute kind of in similar ways. I think, probably Rory is probably a better musician. Rory's a guitar player, I suppose, by kind of trade. So I think he adds that kind of musicality to it from that perspective. But I think is not afraid to play with beats and loops and kind of that sort of production side of the house. Is also very happy to sing, and is a great singer as well. So I think, and me the same. So we kind of between us kind of can manage to kind of cover the sort of instrumentation. We're both singers, so we can both sing, yeah, it's and then we I think we have an interest in production. Probably Rory is probably a bit more of a sort of an electronic person. I think probably more into sort of that sort of DJ's electronic space maybe than I am. So I think he probably brings that to the party maybe more than I do. I think probably I'm probably a bit more kind of wordy, and I tend to kind of write the words or lyrics for the the content of the sort of the songs in terms of what they're about and stuff like that. That tends to be more my space. Although not exclusively, but sort of predominantly, I think it probably is. So I think that covers it. Probably doesn't give you So a little bit of input, I think, from each of us, I suppose. But it's quite an easy sort of thing, and I think in a sense, what we found is the back and forth with the sort of virtual recording is actually each of us evolving a song. So for example, I might play something, I will send it to Rory, he will listen to it, he might edit it or add something to it, and then return it back to me, and it becomes something quite different, maybe to what I had envisaged, but actually more often, most of the time, it's better, and then it's interesting because it sort of evolves it in a different way, but in a more exciting way, and then I add to it and we sort of finesse, that, but we're not too precious about what exactly we do to it, So Rory might sing on top of it. He might add a drum thing or a synth thing to it. He might play some guitar to it, and that's maybe part of the sort of the surprise, I guess, of it, and vice versa. So it's a very kind of loose, not very prescribed kind of collaboration.
I might add, I think. In fairness, Colm would be the main songwriter, as in totally with the lyrics. I am just hopeless with lyrics.
Right.
I just hate writing lyrics. And Colm's really brilliant at that. So,
Rory, you mentioned one of you mentioned at the start that this evolved. Are you stunned at happy with the success of it, and do you have kind of how did that happen moments?
It's funny, we were talking about this the other day, and in some ways the best kind of high, if you like, we get is when we've just kind of bounced an idea back and forth and we think it's the best thing ever. Yeah. This is before it even, gets properly produced or anything. And Colin will probably agree, I think that's kind of the biggest buzz for us. It's the creative process. Now, of course, it's great for the old ego when you get nice reviews and you get played on radio and stuff. That's lovely, but it's not the be all and end all. But I mean, it's obviously most welcome. But
great.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I think that's exactly right. Like, I suppose the reality is this is the third album, so we've been doing this for, I guess, the last, in this kind of iteration for the last 3 or 4 years, and so I think we've had to kind of get clear on sort of why we're doing it, because I suppose it's fair to say that the first album didn't exactly, it didn't set the world on fire in terms sort of critically or commercially, so I think very quickly you kind of get to the point of it's like, well, what will we do another one? And it's not exactly like the world is waiting with bated breath for the next thing, So I think we've had a lot of conversations around what we want to achieve, or why we, the reason for doing it. And as Rory says, it is actually that thing of just producing something that you think that you are really happy with, that you think is worthy and worthwhile in and of itself. So absent any kind of critical attention or anything else, if it's a song that ultimately that becomes a song that you will play because you think actually that is a great tune, or it's really well rendered or whatever, and so I think we've always kind of held that kind of close to our hearts in a way. It's kind of like that's because of that, if that's the North Star, then actually all of the other stuff is kind of incidental and absolutely welcome, and it has been kind of overwhelming for this record, but I think that sort of North Star it has to be the kind of the one kind of clear truth for us in a way, but that's not to say that obviously this is kind of really welcome to get that sort of response and that kind of endorsement as well, because I think probably sometimes it can be a bit lonely, I guess, if you're just sort of you're sort of putting this output out there and maybe it isn't landing in the way that you wanted or expected or whatever. So it really is good to have even one person to say, wow, I love that song. It means a lot, to me, or it spoke to me on a certain level, or the music affected me in a certain way. And I think that's been really lovely about some of the kind of the reviews we've had and some of the sort of the press stuff that we've had done for this album has been really rewarding in that sense, that it's actually, where we're actually seeing people face to face who are kind of affected and moved by the music. And it's a really kind of, it's a wonderful thing, I suppose.
All right, we're going to finish, lads, with another track from the album. What would you like me to play on our way out?
Just a Man, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Just a Man. I mean, that's the song itself is a bit of a it's one about sort of I guess growing older and the frailties of health and I suppose just the challenges of life that kind of get in the way, and just the kind of thinking about that, but thinking really about how you respond to them, and actually ultimately kind of prevailing and realizing that actually despite those challenges, that the sort of human condition and our resilience is such that actually we can prevail and overcome them, and actually we should be kind of happy with what we have, so it's that kind of space that the song is in. So yeah, I think Just a Man is a good one to finish out on.
Alrighty. Listen, Colm in Dublin, I let you get back to putting more layers on, and Rory in Malaga, I let you back to cooling down or trying to get some bit of cool air in. Together you make up Rezo, and it's been lovely talking to you both. Again, congratulations on what I think are 3 fabulous albums, and delighted to be able to play them and promote the band. And do please keep me in the loop and let me know if you've got news, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Listen, pleasure, Ger. Thanks for having us on.
Not at all.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, great to join you. Thanks, Ger. Thanks for the support.
Here's Just a Man.
Sweat stains, mind games feed the tree. Gin rush, mind blush, set me free. Drink more, eat more, stay up late. Learn to love instead of hate, 'cause I know not what I am. I may be just a man. Wash your mouth out, spit the paste. I said too much in drunken haste. Lazy mornings, reverie, spike with pain, anxiety, 'cause I know not what I am. I may be just a man. I got love, I got friends, I got you. And maybe that's the best we can do. Space, let me be. Got more pressure than the DMZ. Told your soldier to set on stun. A woman's work is never done, and you can sing along, but this is just a song. Lymph node cycles, misery. White cells, red cells, arteries. Bring back childhood Cherokee. Twisted rock and wounded knee, 'cause you can sing along, but this is just a song. I got love, I got friends, I got you. Maybe that's the best we can do.
Nice sound, isn't it? Comes from Rezo. And thank you very much indeed to Colm O'Connell and to Rory McDade, who comprise Rezo, and for talking to me. Really enjoyed that. I have to do a very quick break. Come back to me just after that, and I'll have more news for you.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Welcome back to the programme. Now, new laws will stop motorists from repeatedly applying for learner permits without sitting a driving test. It comes as latest data shows that more than 290,000 motorists drive on a learner permit in Ireland, with over 27,000 still on one after between 11 and 20 years. Until now, a learner driver need only have booked a test in order to apply for a renewed permit. However, it is suspected that some drivers used this to indefinitely renew their permits without ever sitting a proper test. Now, Transport Minister Eamon Ryan has approved a policy whereby motorists will be able to drive after their third learner permit if they have sat a driving test. The move is aimed at closing the loophole whereby thousands of motorists continued driving on learner permits. Road safety groups, including PARC, P-A-R-C, have continually highlighted the loophole since 2013. Pressure to tackle the issue mounted after it emerged that 15 learner drivers were involved in fatal collisions last year, with 14 of the learner drivers unaccompanied at the time. The policy, which has been sent to the Road Safety Authority, or the RSA, for implementation, will require changes to existing IT systems. A phased introductory system has been agreed for the policy, which is planned for later this year. Road Safety Authority figures show that 4,131 applicants for driving tests were classified as no-shows in 2022, and there were 24,472 no-shows in 2019. Wow! The no-shows during 2020 and 2021 were much lower, but these were years that were impacted by the COVID pandemic. Failing a driving test does not mean you can't get another learner permit or continue to drive, but you are subject to legal controls such as only driving with another qualified driver in the car. There is no limit on the number of learner permits that one can get. It's good to see that loophole being closed, because that's what they were doing. They were applying for the test, so then they go and they renew their learner permit, saying, there you go, there's the confirmation that I've applied for my test, and then they get their learner permit for another 12 months, and then they go away and they don't ever show up for the test, and they do it all again the following year. You know, it's not that difficult to pass the driving test. It's not. And with a couple of good lessons and a little bit of studying on the rules of the road, and a fella or a girl can be flying through it, no bother at all. So I don't know why they don't do it. But anyway, that's the way it is. So good to see that that loophole is being closed. I want to tell you as well about something that's happening in August on the programme. Howard Brereton is on before me between 6 and 7. But Howard is taking holidays in August. So for the month of August, Live on Eire is going to move to 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. So I'll be on from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. for the 4 weeks in August. All right, I will mention that to you again at some point in the future, but I just wanted to flag it now so that you won't forget to tune in. I'm sure you're listening anyway to Howard Brereton, but just in case you're specifically tuning in for Live on Eire, well then, just to be aware of that. Next week, I'm as usual, 7 until 9, but after that, for the 4 weeks after that, I'll be moving to 6 to 8. Okay, all right, we're heading towards the news, and we are going to London for that, and we'll be back here then in Ireland for the second part of Live on Eire.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
A little while ago, I spotted an article about St. Declan's Way, a sacred Irish Camino. I was hooked. So I went looking to see what I could find out about St. Declan's Way. And I'm told that it's an ancient 1,500-year-old pilgrim path It's the longest such trail in Ireland. It runs for 115 kilometres. It follows the ancient path used by St. Declan of Ardmore when he went to visit and pay homage to St. Patrick in Cashel, where the rock is. I am glad to say that I am joined by Grania Moynihan, who knows all that there is to be known about the St. Declan's Way and is heavily involved in promoting it and trying to make it something that will be recognised the world over. And we'll try and do our little bit for that as well. Grania, lovely to talk to you and welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, Ger. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you for joining me. What's your connection with this then?
I chair the St. Declan's Way Steering Committee, which is a group of volunteers who have led the development of the trail since 2015. So to give your listeners some context, the trail is 1,500 years old and is a route that goes from Cashel in County Tipperary to Ardmore in County Waterford. Mm-hmm. And it tracks along old byways and lanes and also ancient old, what we call in Ireland, boreens. So small little roads and paths that are still bounded by their old stone walls. And that goes from, as I say, from Cashel to Ardmore, over 115 kilometres. And the old track was very famous in folklore and in our old historical records for hundreds of years. And it crisscrossed with other pilgrim paths, which most likely would have been used by travellers to navigate through very heavily wooded areas. Remember, hundreds of years ago, there would have been a lot more woodland in Ireland than there would be today. And the path, the Rian, as they call it in Irish, the Rian Pádraig, that path continued on, was left in situ for hundreds of years. And in the mid-90s, a group got together to try to reopen it, which had some success. That was led by a lady called Siobhan Lincoln of Ardmore. And a group then got together in 2015 to carry on her work and to apply for state funding to try to make a more concerted effort to reopen the old paths, also to waymark them, to bring in some map boards and really start to put shape on this long distance walking trail, rather than leaving it to somebody that might have had an idea where they were going and sort of braved it through the brambles and the trees to get from A to B. So that was really the origination of the committee that I chair today. Okay. I've been with the group for about 2 years, and they've been in existence for now almost 10 years. Okay.
So as it stands right now, can I drive down in my car to Cashel, get out of the car and start walking? Or is it something that happens every so often, that it's all kind of coordinated and there's a guide with you? Or what way does it operate?
It's a fully waymarked trail from Cashel to Ardmore over that 115 kilometres. So that means we've over 300 pieces of signage. We have little blue arrows on waymarkers that people see at every junction. We have additional signage in the form of larger signposts at bigger junctions where somebody might possibly be confused and wonder, they need more reassurance, I think is how it's described at certain junctions. And we also have map boards, 7 of them along the trail, which explain to the walker what they have passed through, what they're about to pass through next, what are the key highlights to see on each section of the trail. So it's walkable, we say, in 5 to 6 days, Ger, where people are walking on average 20 kilometres a day, and they're walking through a mixture of very lush tillage land, full of corn and big golden fields. In Tipperary, it's an area known as the Golden Vale in Ireland. And moving from that landscape to the mountains of the Knockmill Downs and walking on a mountain track around rather than over the mountains.
Good.
And then continuing on through the countryside of Waterford, which is a mixture of some beautiful track alongside rivers. It's very lush and green, a lot more dairying agriculture in that part of the world. So moving past a few cows and well, more than a few cows, wandering through farms and things, and then onwards towards the sea and Ardmore. So there's a lovely combination of very green, verdant Irish countryside along the way.
You mentioned the Knockmeal Down Mountains, and you said around them as opposed to over. So, do you need to be in pretty good health to do this, or can anybody tackle it?
Anybody can tackle it. The paths are in very good condition.
Great.
At every stage, including the mountain stage. So at no point are you trekking across heather or open ground, open mountain to try to sort of figure your way along. There, as I say, the tracks are marked, but they're also they're maintained in very good condition. The surface underfoot is very good. And in that way, then I think, Ger, that anybody that's capable of walking for an hour or two, they are really kind of pushing themselves out to going for maybe 3 or 4 hours. But then again, people can do this as fast as they want or as slow as they want. And we recommend that people take time to walk each day and slow down and
smell the roses,
see different things along the way, and spend time exploring different places as they go. There's lots and lots of points of interest along the trail, rather than sort of head down and watching the clock and watching the steps and trying to see if they can beat a person or make a personal best to get to the destination that evening.
And again, I mentioned to you, I think in one of the first emails that I sent to you, that myself and my partner Siobhan, we did the English Way Camino back in 2015 from Ferrol across to Santiago de Compostela. And we were able to stop along the way. We didn't book anything. We just checked in various places. We thought we might do the hostels, and then we just thought after the first day, no. And we went into little hotels where we could have a bath or a shower or something, and it was beautiful. But you can't do that on this trail. You like there isn't any, or is there accommodation that you could say, I'll walk 15 kilometers, or I'll walk to, let's say you're walking from Cashel, you might want to say, I'll walk as far as New Inn and I'll see what's in New Inn and book in somewhere there. Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So it's a fair question. There's a variety of accommodation on the trail.
Okay.
And the choice of that accommodation is dependent on the area that you're walking through. So what's the example of that? If you look at the towns of Cashel and Care, which are both on the trail, both in County Tipperary, they're large towns, and they have a choice of accommodation, hotels, B&Bs, Airbnbs. Once then you move from there into the more rural areas, there is a choice of B&B or Airbnb. Some of these are on the trail. Some of them are a few miles away from the trail. And what we suggest to people is that they try to book in advance so that if they're a few miles away, that the B&B owner can pick them up from the trail, can drop them back.
Okay.
And can move luggage for them or whatever they may want to do. But that really should be done in advance. So I suppose were there hostels, larger hostels on the trail, which we don't have yet, the drop-in approach could be more suitable. There is a hostel which is due to come on stream at Mount Mellery Abbey. Mount Mellery is midway along the trail.
Yes.
In the Knockmeal Down Mountains. And when that hostel is on stream in 2025, that will accommodate walkers for one night, and that's more of your typical pilgrim business.
Okay.
But that isn't to say, Ger, that we don't have people that I suppose plan their way along, and they plan to stay in one night each time, and they carry their luggage each day. So at the moment, we had an Italian walker last week that walked with the luggage on his back, and only found his accommodation when he arrived in Ireland, with a little bit of help from Cashel Tourist Office.
Right.
And this week we have 2 Swedes that are walking that only booked a week ago. So this doesn't need to be organised 6 months in advance. The hospitality industry is very reactive. There's a very strong culture of hospitality in Ireland, and that is especially so in the rural areas. And they're really good to react, really good to work with walkers to help them. So I'd encourage anybody thinking of walking the trail that there is plenty of choice. At times it may not be directly on the trail, but let that not deter you.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We were talking a few minutes ago and you were talking about signage and various things that all costs money, and what you want to do is going to cost money. I know that you said that you're looking at maybe state funding, but at the moment, where are you getting funding?
At the moment, we have received funding to develop the trail to the position that it's now in, the fully waymarked trail that has been inspected by Sport Ireland, that's insured.
Okay.
And it has a walk scheme which operates around it, which is where the landowners then receive payment for maintenance on the trail.
Oh, all right.
And we have over 60 landowners involved in that, and it doesn't. They're not huge amounts of money, but they're an important acknowledgement of the role that the landowners play in maintaining the trail. So that's an ongoing state support. We have 2 rural recreation officers, again, which are part of the state organisation, one in Tipperary and one in Waterford, and they do a really good job again on engagement with the landowners and any issues that may arise. In terms of future funding and how that works, we get some funding in terms of infrastructure for the trail. That could be further signage. It could be linking villages along the trail to the walking track itself. So in other words, if there's a village a mile away, making sure that the signage is there between that village and the trail. Right. Rather than somebody having to pull out the phone and figure out on a GPS map or take a chance on whether they go north or south, east or west.
Gotcha.
So that they're sort of minor enough enhancements, Ger, that are ongoing every year. But I suppose the next big step is elevating this trail to a trail of international calibre. And the international calibre requires a tourism development strategy as well as a trail development strategy. They're 2 different things. And that in turn, it predicates that we work with another part of the state, which is that whole tourism Ireland and Fall to Ireland dynamic, and that is both domestic promotion and international promotion of the trail.
Yeah.
And therein, I suppose there's a steering level needed at state level to decide, right, this trail has lots of potential. It has a good infrastructure. It can be better, but let's work and let's develop accordingly. And that is exactly how the Camino de Santiago was developed from 1997 onwards. It began as a product that was then invested in year after year after year by the different municipalities and the Spanish state. And that's how the product that we see today has emerged.
Okay.
It didn't start as a brilliant walking trail. It became that over a 20 to 30 year period. And that, I think, to that point, we would look very closely at the developments that happen in Santiago and around and across all of the different Camino products, the Camino Francés, the Camino Portugués, the Camino Inglés. And then we've also partnered with the Camino Inglés team to become part of the Celtic Camino.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So the Celtic Camino is a concept whereby you can walk 25 kilometres in Ireland and have that 25k verified and stamped and get an associated certificate for that piece. Then go to A Coruña, should I say, in Spain, and walk from A Coruña to Santiago, 75 kilometres, and combined the office in the Pilgrim office in Santiago will accept the 25k in Ireland, the 75k in Spain, and on that basis grant the Compostela.
All right.
Prized Compostela. And A Coruña then was a traditional destination for Irish pilgrims who came to Spain. So there's a lot of historical connectivity there.
There is.
So this is all about developing long distance walking beyond the realm of just northern Spain. And that, back to your question that you're asking me about future development, that really is the crux of being able to grow the long distance walking product, such that people realize that they can walk long distances day after day, 4 or 5 days in a row in their own countries, rather than flying abroad to do that. That they can marry walking locally, be it in Ireland or the UK or other countries, and getting some credit for that they can connect to the prize of reaching Santiago.
Lovely.
And I think in that way we're building on the brand that is Camino walking without, I suppose, concentrating more and more activity into Santiago, which is already very, very busy.
Yes.
The Spanish walking product, the Camino walking product, is very busy. So that's part of our development strategy for St. Declan's Way. Other I suppose, key factors in its favour. It is only 2 hours drive from Dublin Airport to get to Cashel, which is the traditional sort of starting point. It's located in the south of Ireland, only an hour or so from Cork and from Waterford City. So it's very manageable to drive there to start, or to get a bus from Dublin or from Cork Airport to Cashel, or to get the train and to connect via the local bus links. It's very feasible to walk on foot, and then if you need to get a bus here and there to a bigger town to do something in the evenings, and more now we're looking to be able to bring this product to the market so that one doesn't need to have a car, Ger, to do it. You don't need to be hiring cars, and that this can sustainably be walked on foot, fully walked on foot.
And just to say to you, because you probably know that all of us on the West Coast have a chip in our shoulder, and we have a fabulous international airport in I'm 15 minutes literally from where I am right now, which is Shannon Airport, and that's only half an hour, well, it's 20 minutes from Limerick, and it's so you can use Shannon Airport as well as Cork or Dublin.
Absolutely.
You could easily. At the end of the day, this is going to be a huge development. It's going to take a little bit of time to get it done. You want to be internationally recognised, which is absolutely brilliant. Tourism products to be developed along the route would just enhance the area even further, because it's in a beautiful part of the world. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of money to be spent on it. So what are you hoping for? Like, let's say in 15 years' time, where will St. Declan's Way be, do you hope?
I think in 15 years' time, we would expect to have over 20,000 walkers per year, 30,000 walkers per year, contributing 40, 50 million to the Irish economy.
Wow.
We would expect to be drawing walkers from all over the world, as well as from the Irish domestic market. We would expect to have more services on the trail in terms of that, how do I say it, more accessible accommodation in terms of hostels where one night stays are the norm. We would expect to have a stronger public transport infrastructure in place along the trail, and also connecting to our major transport hubs, as you said, the airports and the cities. And we would expect quite a strong economic impact in terms of employment, because we know that there's luggage transport services, there's lots of hospitality opportunity, the food and drink business, all of that sort of stuff are big spin-off areas for walkers. And we would expect that we would have had one of the strongest walking products on the, in Europe, outside of, and around the world, outside of the Camino. And that also we would be contributing to the growth of long distance walking, across the spectrum.
Right. So
that people will understand that, or will see that walking in lowland areas or on tracks around mountains, that is a very viable exercise opportunity. It's contributing to their well-being. It's contributing to better mental health, and that it's being acknowledged and supported as such in terms of further growth by the state.
And, excuse me, going away from the business side of it just for a minute, who was St. Declan, and why is he so important, and why are we doing this?
Well, St. Declan he was the son of an Irish chieftain who lived in Ardmore, and he went to Rome and became, somewhere along the line, became a monk and set up his own community in Ardmore.
All right.
And there's all sorts of legends that are linked to St. Declan, including how he came to Ardmore, from Rome, and I think he came via Wales and that. And he then was bringing Christianity to Waterford, to the south of Ireland, at the same time that St. Patrick was working around the Midlands and north of Ireland.
Okay.
So the High King of Munster summoned both of them to Cashel, to meet in Cashel, St. Patrick and St. Declan. And that was why, that's why he took that journey north to meet St. Patrick, and why he, I suppose why it was such a momentous meeting, in that they decided there and then to split the evangelization or bringing Christianity to Ireland between the two of them. So we have more wells and streets and townlands related to Declan than in other parts of Ireland, and conversely we have less wells, etc., related to St. Patrick.
Okay.
Because he didn't have as strong an influence.
They divvied up the territory.
They divvied up the territory between them, exactly. And still to this day, that tradition lives on. So there's a St. Declan's Well outside Clashmore, nearby the trail. There's a St. Declan's Well in Ardmore. There's a little artery where St. Declan is buried, lots of St. Declan's Stone, St. Declan's Bell, loads of different aspects to the culture, or how do I say it? The
legends.
The legend of St. Declan, exactly.
Right,
comes
okay.
in many parts,
When we're walking in Spain on the Camino, the route will take you up a big mountain or a big hill to just literally pass by a church. It's all about passing the churches and so on and so forth, as the pilgrims used to be on their way. How much of this route can we access some of the fabulous, maybe the old monasteries, probably broken down at this stage, abbeys, churches like that? Is it the same?
Yeah, so there's a mixture of different points of interest on the trail. If you start with the Rock of Cashel, which is an ancient site, thousands of years old, that is now run by the Irish state, the Office of Public Works, the OPW, owned and run by the state. And that is what we would call a paid attraction, where you can pay a fee and go in and have a guided tour and watch a really good video and all of that to get a really good sense of the history of the place. Similarly, Ger Castle is a wonderful old butler castle, the Dukes of Ormond in Ger. Again, hundreds of years of history with that building, and as the Swiss Cottage, another lovely cottage ornée, which is about 2 miles south along St. Declan's Way, which was also built by the Butlers. And so that's an example of, I suppose, built heritage and older sites. There's some other little places. Kilmalash is another one, a little church that has been abandoned probably for 200-300 years, which has long connotations both with St. Declan and St. Carthage. On the other hand, then you have very much a living monastery in Montmellery Abbey, which is a Cistercian abbey, one of several Cistercian abbeys in Ireland. And it was a mothership when the Cistercians came to Ireland in 1832. They had come from Mellery in France. They settled in Montmellery, a big mountain site in the Knockmill Downs, and built a very strong community, and in turn then produced monks who went off to found abbeys in other locations, both in Ireland, New Zealand and the States. So it's a really important, strategically important monastery for the Cistercians, not to mind for St. Declan's Way.
Right.
And you also have lovely places like St. Carthage's Cathedral in Lismore, which is built on the site of an ancient monastery. St. Carthage is the patron saint of Lismore. And there's a beautiful Church of Ireland church, several hundred years old, now built on that site. So there's the ancient is all around us on St. Declan's Way, but that ancient is very much alive. And I think that's what quite differentiates the spiritual element of this trail.
Okay.
Versus other trails that may be going through lots of ruins and lots of signage about how things used to be, how life was in the past. And that to me, I certainly see that with the monastery in Melleray, where the monks are still rising every morning at 4 a.m. They pray 7 times a day. They're very involved in the running of the monastery, their guest house, the cafe, the farm, the forestry. Lots going on there. Yet at the same time, they can have a contemplative existence, and also they support events on the trail. So they really are great men to look forward and can be very innovative, which is very important as a sort of a moral compass jar in the development of this trail, because you've heard a lot of economic statistics from me, because I'm an accountant by training. It's how I think. It's about measuring where we are today and measuring where we need to be in 5, 10, 15 years time. But there's a very, and I would say more important dynamic. There's a much more important dynamic, which is, it's the here and now, and being comfortable with what the trail is, what it is promoting, and also being comfortable with what its potential is. Okay. And that potential, particularly that spiritual element, is enhanced by the fact that there's an abbey right in the middle of the trail with a bunch of monks who are very open, to visitors, and hospitality is a core part of the Benedictine culture. And I think that gives us a lot of strength to keep going, because once your vision is clear, then it's about sticking to that, pushing that forward with all of the supports that you can get, and staying true to what your moral compass is. And the monks are really good at helping us set that moral compass.
What kind of reaction are you getting from people? Because I was thinking about one particular instance when I was walking the Camino, and it was a very emotional experience that I had out of nowhere, absolutely out of nowhere. Are you getting comments from people about, the emotion of walking it? Because the physical thing is one thing, but what you get back from it, it blew me away. It really did blow me away. And I would love to have that experience again, or a similar one, because you can't have the same experience blow you away twice. But are you getting that kind of feedback?
Yeah, we are getting that kind of feedback, and we get it from different people for different reasons, if that makes sense. So, for example, a group called Celtic Ways Ireland run regular walking trips and along the trail, and they are organised trips, often with Americans, with many different nationalities. They explore the cultural side quite a lot of what's happening. So they're walking and they're introducing these guys to Irish music, and it's a curated trip, it's a structured trip. Okay. And those people are blown away by, yes, the countryside, but also what they experienced during their 5-6 days with the Celtic Ways team. And that can be largely spiritual for that group, depending on the nature of the individual. I think for me, I've had a lot of feedback from people, those who walk alone, your typical peregrino, the one who takes on the trek and they have their backpack. Those people are blown away by the contemplative silence and the peace, and being able to navigate the Irish landscape alone or with a friend, but certainly not needing to be in the company of 10 or 20 other people. And also, they have an opportunity, which a lot of them love, to meet the Irish in a quiet rural setting. So though they might be meeting the local farmers, they might be meeting a guy walking along the road. The Irish are very curious people, and they love to have a chat. And it's in English, or it's in whatever language, whether it's in sign language or whether it's with arms flying around the place. they love to have some sort of an idea of who they have in front of them, where they're from, and where they're going.
Who their people are.
I think that curiosity is what people really enjoy. And of course, when you're walking along, you find it in the least expected of places. It could be because you find yourself having, taken a wrong turn because you were talking too much or you were thinking too much and you missed an arrow. It could be because somebody else is in trouble and comes looking for your help. So there's lots of different ways to have those interactions. And I think also, because the trail goes through some quite rural places, it still isn't in a wilderness. It's only a few miles from the nearest village, from the nearest town. And I think that's where people feel quite safe in this walking environment rather than being in a more exposed coastal or mountain location where really they feel, cripey, if I'm not in a group of 10 or 20 people, then I'm never going to handle this on my own.
I think if I was doing it, or when I do it, I should say, not if I do it, when I do it, I think I'd be very happy to do it with Siobhan again, my partner, because when you're living with somebody and you know somebody, hours can go by without a conversation, without a word, and without any discomfort. But I think if I was with a lot of people, I think the noise would just drown out what I wanted in my head, to sort out or to listen to or to feel or whatever. But as you say, people choose to do different ways, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. And I think, Ger, it's dependent on the nature of the individual. We have adventures in life that will take on a long distance walking trail in another country, even if they don't have a word of the language. They'll just trust their instinct and trust the location that they're going to. Yeah. And they love that. That's their thing. That's what they enjoy doing. Yet, by the same extent, you can have walkers that are short on time. They want to be able to fly in. They want to start walking. They want to have the logistics organised. And they want to know, where they can go afterwards. And I think the beauty of it really is that these trails can, and particularly St. Declan's Way, is offering people the chance to do both. It's all about choice, because once you can accommodate people with different interests, then people will come, they'll go back and tell their friends, the reputation builds, and all of that becomes important to, as you said to me earlier, to the longer term development and the sustainability of the trail. Because we must make sure, after all of this work in the last 10 years and even back to the mid-90s, that this €1,500 trail continues on for another 1,500 years. And it's just as strong into the future.
Are schools going to get involved in the area as well? Because wouldn't it be nice to have the school children at a primary age knowing about this and maybe encouraging their parents to take them? And also it gives them a foundation for when they grow up themselves as well, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So we have schools that take a section of the trail as part of their the development of the children, and usually they're teenagers they could be 14, 15 years of age, and they will walk stage by stage by stage, and they'll eventually cover 5 days over a period of time. We also have schools that focus just around the area of Mount Melleray and do some walking in and around the mountains, which then is also focused on spending time with the monks. And also then we run a pilgrimage, an annual pilgrimage every year over 6 days. And this is a large scale event that takes up to 300 each day. So over 6 days, it can take up to 1,800 people.
Wow.
That pilgrimage attracts young and old. Okay. So you will have parents that will bring their children on that. And of course, it's dependent on the children being able to walk for on average 20 kilometres a day. And that becomes a very useful introduction for those children to long distance walking, but also to St. Declan's Way. And then thirdly, we on that annual pilgrimage, we work closely with some of the schools along the way, which may be the base for some of these walks. So in other words, it's where registration would take place. It's where the buses arrive to pick up the walkers. These are very large organised events. And we also work with a school called Ballycarran, which is outside Ardmore in County Waterford. And the parents in that school, they make sandwiches and they cook food for the walkers. So we tell the walkers that they don't bring any lunch. just bring some water with you. And then we arrived at the school. They've all the little tables and chairs out in the front yard, and they've all the cakes and buns and sandwiches and you name it, sausages and all sorts of things laid out, and the walkers can eat like kings. And all they ask is that there's a donation left for the next initiative that the school would like to do, be it, a new classroom or sensory garden, I think was another initiative that they had. So that's a lovely idea, Ger, where you're creating an occasion for walkers to participate in, but you're also using that occasion to give back to the community around the walking trail. We have other activities, Ger, on the trail aside from walking. So what we also have is an increasing interest in cycling on the trail and in ultramarathon running. So at 115 kilometres, the distance of the trail is it's more than sort of ultra length, but very strong runners will run that in one go. So some of them do it supported, some of them do it unsupported. But what they are doing is rising at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. in Cashel and running through the day, right through to get to Ardmore for maybe 7, 8, 9 o'clock that evening, depending on their speed.
Wow. Incredible.
So that's quite, to me, that really becomes, it's really when you're starting to meet all sorts of needs, as it were, for different people, for the ultra fit, as well as those that are on a journey towards better fitness. The same is true of cyclists who may choose to road cycle along the trail. Some parts, about 40% of the trail is off-road, 60% is on-road. So they can follow either by road bike, or some of them choose to cycle on the off-road sections with their mountain bikes, which is challenging for them, because these tracks are not built for wheels; they're built for feet. But still, all of this is important. It's all about development, and incorporating what different people like to do, and we encourage all of that because it's building the reputation of the trail.
Listening to you talking there about the initiatives, particularly with the school, it crossed my mind that there must be a bit of a buzz about the place about this, is there? As people can see it developing, they can see maybe an increase in the number of people coming on an annual basis. Are people excited in the area that would be affected, in inverted commas, by this?
Absolutely. I think a very strong example of that is conversations that we are having to landowners about further development of the trail.
Right.
Ger, where there are areas of the trail which haven't yet been incorporated, areas of St. Declan's Way not yet incorporated into the walking trail. Okay. If you follow, the waymarked walking trail. And what I really see is the instant recognition of the brand by the landowners, instantly know what you're talking about, and instantly you can see that there's a respect there for the group that are involved in development, but also for the ambition for the trail. And where possible, because it can depend on the complexity of the usage of their land, it can the type of farming that might be going on and all these different bits and pieces. But where possible, they always try to work with the committee to look at developing further interesting areas of the trail, be that more areas off-road or maybe developing access into old wells and points of interest that would really enhance the quality of the trail. Because, the crux of this, and the crux of really being able to strengthen the product for the walker, is to be able to show them all of the interesting things in the vicinity. So yes, we have the big castles. Yes, we have the big monasteries. Yes, we have beaches and mountains. But it's an area that's been lived in for hundreds of years and thousands of years. So the hidden elements over time, they need to be drawn out as well, so that people get a full understanding of how society has developed in this area and how the landscape has developed over over thousands of years, such that it can be protected into the future. It's only when you really wrap things around and get a product together, a product where you can tell a story and you can explain it as part of a story. That's where people will say, I get it, I understand it, I'll remember it.
Okay.
I'll repeat it to somebody else. And I think that's our challenge as we continue to develop, that we keep that story as clear for everybody as possible. But that's really that's about managing a brand. That becomes the challenge as you grow and you develop, that people can clearly still see your vision and see what you stand for.
That's right. How many times have you done it?
I have walked it about 5 or 6 times. I walk it every year end to end as part of the annual pilgrimage.
Okay.
Which is run by Knockmildown Active, and that I am a leader with that group on each of those 6 days. And just on another note, Ger, it's worth noting that Knockmildown Active, which is another voluntary group, they organise that annual pilgrimage. They're very closely aligned to the St. Declan's Way Development Committee.
Right. So
that's the Trail Development Group. And they work very closely also with the landowners to manage those pilgrimages, that pilgrimage every year.
Okay.
Because, the countryside is a live working product, and you might have a plan today and tomorrow that plan will change either due to weather or animals or whatever it might be. So there's a very strong relationship there. And the communities that the Knockmildown Active work with are an inherent part of the whole St. Declan's Way network. And the community groups, their involvement in the pilgrimage, yes, but also their involvement in trail maintenance, in meeting walkers, that becomes a really important part of the ecosystem. So when you say to me, have I walked it or how often I walk it, it's really important that I walk it very frequently, because that's where I can keep on top of, how different areas are developing, or something that might be emerging, that might be upsetting somebody, and understanding that and trying to correct it, and keeping a balance. Because in a way, this 115 kilometres, it's 2 different counties in Ireland, it's 12 different towns and villages. It's cripey. It's a 2-hour drive from one end of it to the other, or an hour and a half. No one individual or no one committee can have their finger on the pulse over such a wide area.
Yes.
It's impossible. You have to be able to work through the local community groups on the ground, and you have to have a strong trust-based relationship with those groups. And in that way, information is flowing up and down and over and back. Everybody's aware of what's going on, and problems are dealt with. And as well as that, opportunities are seen quite quickly. And I think that's part of the one of the most enjoyable parts for me, because you really are creating a sense of place. And that's what we're trying to do. And the first person that you need to try to create a sense of place for is yourself. So if I feel a sense of place, if the committee I work with feel a sense of place, and if the committees then that we network with on the ground feel that sense of place, then you really have an organic, indigenous, strong loyalty to the land, to the place, to the area, the pride. All of that strengthens, and it's a very strong base, sustainable base. And in that way, you have a product that is supported end to end, rather than being favoured more in one area rather than another. And in order, again, back to the Camino, the reason that product has strengthened is because the supports all the way along have developed over time. And it may have been at different paces. I'm sure it has been. Development in one area might have accelerated more than another. But over time, it all lifted, and the communities in each area got behind it, the businesses in each area. And that really that's where you have an engine developing, a
propelling, really, isn't it?
Self-propelling engine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, yes, we go back to the plan and to state funding and that. And funding is top down, as we know, but it has to marry with the bottom up buy-in in order to develop projects that are going to be sustainable and that are going to succeed in the long term. And not only that, projects that, as you say, will self-propel them way forward. They're not just going to go so far and stop and go, oh, I need another injection of cash again. Can't go forward anymore.
Yes.
I need another injection of cash.
It's a constant, isn't it?
If it's constant, and if these groups are set up or the structures set up properly, it's generating funding which finances the future development. And as over time, you know, your match funding, as they call it, with a lot of state funding, you need to provide a certain amount of funds. It could be 10, 20%. That match funding is coming from the base. The base product is generating that.
Great.
And then you're into a healthier cash generative model, economic development model, however you want to describe it. That's really when it becomes sustainable. And that's all part of a planned journey.
All right. Listen, you've been very good with your time. I don't think there's anything I don't know now about St. Declan's Way, except what it's actually like to do it. And hopefully I'll get to that in the very near future. Just for people that are listening, to get further information, you have a website. Will you give us the details of it, please?
Yeah, it's stdeclansway.ie.
Simple as that. It does what it says on the tin. St. Declan, that's ST, isn't it? ST Declan's Way.
ST dot, sorry, what did I say? ST
Declan's Way.
DECLANSWAY.IE.
Fantastic. Listen, it's been a joy talking to you, Grania. Thank you so much for telling us so much about this wonderful, I suppose, it's an event and it's a place and it's an experience and it's a lot of things rolled into one, isn't it?
It is, and I think what I'd like to say, Ger, is that if anyone listening is keen to visit and to walk St. Declan's Way, they have different options. The annual pilgrimage will take place in 2025, most likely between March and May.
Okay.
The dates are to be confirmed. The best thing is to follow St. Declan's Way on our social media platforms. So that's on Facebook and Instagram. And then for an organised tour, there's two further groups with Celtic Ways Ireland that are travelling this year. One trip is in September. The other is then from the 8th to the 10th of October. And that same company will travel along the trail. I think it's a 6-day trip in 2025. They'll travel 8 times. So there's 8 different scheduled trips next year. And I mean, there's, as I say, we are quite communicative. If you get in touch with us by email or on Facebook Messenger, anything like that, we get in touch, and we always try to help people with any suggestions they may have for improvement based on what they see, or if they need any heads up on where to go. Our website lists where to stay, different suggestions of different places. It has route maps, a GPX route map that you can also have on your phone, as well as following the arrows. It also, has some sort of descriptions of the sort of key points of interest on the trail. So it is in, if you look at it and you think it needs more investment, yes, it does. This trail needs to be more polished. It needs, I suppose, further funding over the coming years. We know we want to have a development manager assigned to the trail full time, working with landowners, working with tourism opportunities, and really helping to build the product. But you know what? Where it is today, it's a damn good walk. It's in a beautiful part of Ireland. And the more people that we have on that trail today will help us justify to the state in the long term as to why we want further development to bring it to where it really can be.
All righty. You didn't need me here at all, really, did you? Listen, thanks a million. I wish you well for the remainder of the year with St. Declan's Way, and hopefully we'll get to chat again, and do keep us up to date with developments, will you please, Grania?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ger.
Thanks,
Lovely
Grania.
to speak to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Oh, That was great. We know everything that there is to be known or to be knowed about St. Declan's Way, and we did it on the Feast of St. Declan as well, the 24th of, I'm going to say December for some reason, 24th of July. Hundreds of natterjack toads were released in County Kerry yesterday in what will be a first for Ireland's newest national park, Páirc Náisiúnta na Mara. The natterjack is Ireland's only native toad and unique to coastal Kerry. It has been under threat from changing agricultural practices. Excuse me. That's better. From agricultural practices in the area as well as climate change. And 1,000 natterjacks have been bred in Dingle Ocean World in a volunteer breeding programme in conjunction with the National Parks and Wildlife Service, otherwise known as the NPWS. Yesterday morning, 500 of the toadlets were released into the dunes in Inch in County Kerry. Fabulous beach it is as well, which are now state-owned as part of Páirc Náisiúnta na Mara. An amphibian specialist in the NPWS said that the project was undertaken in order to improve the breeding success of the toad. Sorry, just wanted to double check I was okay on levels and things like that. Success of the toad. Dr. Ferdia Marnell described the toad as being quite like a frog, but a bit smaller. He said that they have a very distinctive yellow stripe right down the centre of their back, which distinguishes them from frogs. Dr. Marnell said that natterjacks, the natterjack is only found on the coastal strips of Castlemaine Harbour and up and around the Maharees and Castle Gregory in Kerry. He said the toadlets will spend another around 2 or 3 years on land, eating and growing, and then hopefully in about 3 years' time they'll be big enough to come back to the ponds and actually start breeding themselves. But, he said, it's a tough life being a toad. It is. Everything likes to eat them, apparently. Anything that's bigger than them, from shrews and rats and herons and otters and foxes and you name it, that's it. They really are sort of fast food for any sort of predator that's out there, he said. Dr. Marnell went on to say that the biggest risk for the natterjack is the tadpole stage. So when they're in the pond, they breed in these shallow ponds, which do tend to dry up. It's sort of a natural thing. But some years, he said, we have great success. Last year was a very good year, and we had thousands and thousands of young toadlets metamorphosed. But this year, it's been sort of dry at the wrong time, really. Ask anybody about the weather here, but as you said, the wrong time. So we've really been delighted to be working with Dingle Ocean World to try and save some of these tadpoles. The tadpoles metamorphosed in the last week, and they're ready to be returned out to the wild. And fingers crossed they'll do well, Dr. Marnell said. And indeed, let's support all that. Let's hope they do well. Let's get as much of this in as we can. We won't get it all in, but to give you a flavour of it anyway. We played them a couple of weeks ago. I said we must play more from them. Here's Amble and a song called Tonta, T-O-N-N-T-A, Tonta. going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. That is Amble and a song called Tonta, and we'll get more from Amble at another stage. I want to say thank you to my guests tonight, Colm O'Connell and Rory McDade, together Rezo, and Grania Moynihan talking to me about St. Declan's Way. Much appreciated to both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, as always, as well, to Antonio Sierra, our Spanish-Irish cultural advisor on the programme. But most of all, thank you very much for listening to the programme this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed putting it together and presenting it to you. I look forward to being back with you next week, next Wednesday between 7 and 9 for another Live on Eire. Until then, from me, Ger Sweeney, bye-bye, thank you and take care.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.